What's up, Legion? Steve Zaff here. Here's part 2 of our AEW Dynasty review. Please enjoy. And remember, tuck your chin when you bum.
So, moving into the meaty middle of this card, I guess. Probably Storm and Megan Bayne probably started that. But we have Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe for the other men's Owen Hart Cup tournament quarterfinal match. There you go. I got it that time. Steven, what'd you think of this match?
Fletcher versus Briscoe. I love these two. I love watching these two. I think these two are always going to be a good time. I still believe that this match didn't need to be on this card. With that said, the match was awesome. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I think Kyle Fletcher is amazing. I think he's a phenomenal young talent.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that he needs to be slightly produced. I think...
Isn't that what Callis is supposed to be there for?
Yeah, but who's going to produce Callis? I think Kyle Fletcher, and whether this is agreed upon from the Legion or anyone else who are major AEW fans, I think Fletcher's future and his best career path actually does lie in the WWE. I think he needs a little bit of direction on stuff that doesn't involve ring work. I think his in-ring stuff is amazing. I think sometimes he does need to pull it back a hair. But his actual character stuff just needs like this much tweaking, and I think it needs to be done over there, unfortunately. I think this is a Shawn Michaels Triple H situation that they could, and I think him getting in there, I think they would tweak him and make him a new generation. The best comparison is he would be a younger, different Randy Orton.
See, I'm not a Randy Orton guy, so for me, I think that's a negative, personally.
That's fair. But he's still, I mean...
I get what you're saying, though. I guess for me, my worry is, would they utilize him correctly? Because you've seen it from all the time. How many people have gone to there that from different companies, and you forget they're even there within a matter of a couple months?
See, I want him utilized the exact same way he's being utilized now. I just want it. Again, this goes back to producers aren't having communications. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. I think Kyle Fletcher would benefit from structure, a better structure in the background. Where, hey, I'll give you the example. Finn Balor coming from Japan, where he was already very good and very creative, and then Triple H sat him down for hours at a point I think he said 8 hours when he got there, and just went over his entrance and shell shocked him because he was like, I didn't realize all of this just went into this. So I think Kyle Fletcher, if he's used and utilized the exact same way that he is now, but with better structure and the better, for lack of a better term, the better machine, I think he would fly higher. Where I think AEW, I also think a little bit of it is he's always going to be inexplicably linked to Will Ospreay. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but he might always kind of play. This is a harsh version of this. He's going to be Ospreay's Jannetty.
I was thinking he might end up being Ospreay's sidekick and all, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to be Ospreay, whether he's the foil all the time, but he's going to be the Jannetty. He's going to be the guy who's always does whatever Ospreay's doing, but he does it after Ospreay does it.
I don't know. To me, I kind of look at it more as he's going to be the Triple H to Ospreay's Shawn. I think Ospreay is the Shawn, and I think in a lot of ways Kyle Fletcher is Triple H.
I can see that as well.
He's younger. He's still learning, but I like the aspect of Ospreay taking him under his wing and saying, bruv, I got you. I'm going to help take you to that next level. Because I think, honestly, I think he would fall through the cracks in WWE. I'm sorry, but I really don't think. Oh, excuse me. I don't think they'd utilize him right. I really don't.
I think that AEW is typically the area where people go to fall. That they're hot for a couple minutes and they fall into the abyss. I think that WWE usually has a longer term thing. Not that everybody works. I think Ricochet is a good example of someone who went in there with high expectations and didn't really work. Shinsuke is another one who had a great run, but then just fell into the void. Even every time they try to reboot him, it starts out relatively hot and then just fizzles. So not that it doesn't happen, but I definitely see where you're coming from, Steve, where even if Kyle went there for like the clinic, was there for a contract and came back, he'd come back a better version of that.
I think he would come back I think he would come back as a better version of himself. And honestly, I think it would be beneficial to both AEW, to Kyle Fletcher, or if he were to go anywhere else, if he was, let's say, flip-flopping between AEW and like New Japan. Yeah. I think it would be beneficial for everybody in this. Now then, with that said, don't get me wrong, Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe, I'll watch that match all the time. Mark Briscoe is a national treasure as far as I'm concerned. He was molded by God herself and delivered to us.
This match was fantastic. This is the main event of Dynamite for me. Like leading into it. This and the next one, when you cut these two matches, you shore up 35 minutes, and this makes this a very digestible show. We kind of mentioned it earlier on, but if you were to kind of pull these two out, and I think that this match, as evenly paced, as good as it was, the Bandido Jericho match that we'll talk about next, the way that one kind of went, that really hurt Colin Garcia afterwards. Without this 35 minutes, I think Colin Garcia has a fantastic match. Maybe it's a little bit longer. And then you go into the double main event or the tier 1, tier 2 main event in this moment. A little bit hotter. I think this card is more complete and it's a little bit stronger in that front. This one, this is the Owen Hart Cup match that goes somewhere else. I do like having two of them here as like the kickoff or the highlights of this round of the quarterfinal, where there's a lot of them, where we take these two matches and these are the two matches that we wanted to put the spotlight on because that's what makes this on. Maybe they're favorites, the ones to beat in the tournament. The Ospreay and Monet are the two stars in the event. This one should have been the kickoff to the quarterfinals in the Dynamite leading into Dynasty. That's where I think this is placed better.
Or if and I know they want Kyle Fletcher on the pay-per-view. 100%. If this was on the pre-show, I maybe this isn't on the main card. If this match, basically just this match is on the pre-show, I'm probably less critical of everything overall, because on the show itself, like I know it was a lot of fun, and I'm a big fan of Anthony Bowens, but the Max Caster Anthony Bowens stuff could have been done on the Dynamite as well.
Not to mention, I think it was way too soon for that to be Bowen that comes in there. Way too soon. I think they absolutely, and that's going to be a criticism I'm going to have. They dropped the ball big time on that one, AEW.
And that's the thing, is they re-debuted him on a pre-show, which if anyone's not going to watch something, they're not going to watch the pre-show.
But that's why I also don't think this goes in the pre-show. I think this is the main event of Dynamite.
Well, let me ask you this, and all. What if they waited till start the Owen tournament tomorrow on Wednesday?
Sure. And
instead went and Will Ospreay beats Kyle Fletcher in that cage match, and he's pissed. Don Callis says, you need to avenge yourself. I need to see more out of you, kid, yada, yada, yada. And they have another stipulated match of Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. Would that have been a better use of things to cut out a couple of those matches and go with that instead?
Yes, no, maybe. What I'm going to say is I think the end of the Owen Cup is going to be Fletcher Ospreay. at the end of all this.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the brackets again. I do have them, and they're going to be printed on the show kind of while I'm saying this right now. But as of right now, if I were to say, I think they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, and the whole plan is to have them be the finals.
They're on opposite sides. You have Ospreay and Knight, Brody King versus Takeshita on the left, and on the right you have Briscoe and Fletcher, Hangman, and Wildcard. On the right.
Is well, we can always talk about that another point. Let's finish this discussing pay-per-view first.
Yeah,
but that point was to drive in that you think this is going to be the finals, and it can be the finals.
I get that aspect. I mean, honestly, like I said, I just think it was a mistake to do the quarterfinals matches on this pay-per-view. That's all. Don't get me wrong. Very good, another very good match. I just think they dropped the ball by doing that.
Yeah, not a single one of us. I think they're saying that this was a bad match. It's a great match.
It's the main event of Dynamite.
Oh, yeah, yes. It's main event of Dynamite.
And I would have been happier with that. Like, that would have been, oh, hey, I got to see this on. This was a great main event for Dynamite to move the tournament along.
Featuring Monet and Hart in the Owen Hart Cup, featuring Ospreay in a pay-per-view for the Owen Hart Cup to give it that luster. I'm in. Dynamite main event here.
Like I said, I could see all three of those matches being matches on Dynamite, and I would have been very happy with that happening. And it would have cut plenty of time off of the pay-per-view to make it. Yeah,
that's basically an hour off the pay-per-view.
Even if you put an additional match in there, just to have Ospreay on there. All right, so maybe you have him with it, or even if it's 25 minutes, let's say, for him being on there. All right, you still say 35 minutes. Now, instead of ending around 12:30, you're ending around midnight. Still a little long, but at least a little more manageable.
Yeah, there is, like, these next two matches for me are the ones I take out of this. Because I do get the psychology around wanting to put a spotlight on that Owen Hart Cup. So not saying it's right or wrong, but like this is how you elevate the prestige of it, is making sure that there are some matches on a pay-per-view at this caliber. Right or wrong, it's not a big deal. This one, Dynasty main event.
It just didn't need to be here.
Dynamite main event. Names are so damn similar. I feel like we said this last year too, Steve. I
think we did.
The next match, I can't spend 16 minutes on that one, but the next match I can talk about all day, because this should have been the match of the night, because you know how much I love me some Chris Jericho. But Jericho versus Bandido in a surprisingly good match. Like this was one of Jericho's better matches of recent history. I think he always throws in one of these every so often as just to prove to the fans that he should still be here. I give Jericho the credit of keeping up with Bandido here. He's so fast and Jericho's so old. So I think that's one of those
kind
things
of like
where,
soft.
Yeah, and so I think that we all kind of knew how this one was going to end with the match versus title, but maybe not in the way it happened. A good old fast-fashion dusty finish. But Slim, what'd you think?
So let me just say this about Jericho. Did anybody else notice? Did it look like his gut wasn't as big? Like it looked like he lost a few pounds? Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just me. I actually thought he looked in better shape than he'd been in at least 3 or 4 years minimum.
It might be conditioning that he needed to do to keep up in this match. Like that's.
But I thought he looked like to me it looked like he was a little bit skinnier, and it looked like it showed that he was in better shape.
Well, don't forget too, he just got done with the cruise, so he probably was in cruise shape.
Yeah.
The Jericho cruise.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the booze cruise.
No, I mean it is a booze cruise. It's nothing but wrestling. Like literally, his cruise is nothing but wrestling and party rock.
Huh. Now, for the match itself, I thought I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a fun match. The fact that Bandido 60 seconds, well, not actually 60 seconds, because the way technically, if you were counting it right, but probably 30 seconds, he held him up in that suplex. That, God bless him. Like, I was like in awe, shock and awe. I'm like, holy shit, how is he still holding him up? And you could see his knees were starting to give, and he was still fighting through it. So I have mad respect for Bandido. That dude is, wow, that dude is strong. He's good. I was having a lot of fun with that. Jericho looked really good. It was a solid match. Now for my criticism, because this really pissed me off. And I see you waving your hand there to bring it. I'm going to bring it.
I'm waiting for this one because I'm really hoping it's the same
Why
criticism.
the fuck, and I'm going to throw a lot of F-bombs, so I apologize to the censors. Why the fuck, I know I'm going to put money into the swear jar every time. Why the fuck is the fans, in this case, Bandido's sister and mother, why do they have any say over what happens with this match? It made 0 sense. If that's the case, I'm going to yell out, "Oh, so-and-so is cheating."
Yeah,
Therefore,
why isn't that every other fan? We said that Showtime and I had this conversation.
It made 0 sense. It was the dumbest fucking thing. And I will let me reiterate this because I didn't reiterate on the podcast yet. I'm not a stan of any particular company. I love all the companies, all the wrestling. I want to see every wrestler be super successful and making big bucks. I don't care whether they're indies or in a promotion. I want to see every wrestler making a damn good living for themselves. So I have nothing, I'm giving constructive criticism because I want to see AEW get to that next level. That whoever came up with that plan of doing that honestly needs to be pulled into the office. And if it was Tony Khan who came up with it, some of his other writers need to pull him aside and say, "Dude, never, ever, ever anything like that again." Period. End of story. That was a bad ending.
Listen, guys, there's no one more trustworthy than someone's mama. And so if you're gonna Slim, you're not Bandido's mom. You're completely different. So if you can trust anybody, you can't trust another referee because you don't know who's paying them. You can't trust any Joe Schmo in the crowd. Bandido's mama, you can trust her.
Because I'm pretty sure was it Remsburg who officiated that match?
And then
I think it was Remsburg.
And then Aubrey came out and
in a previous or later match, someone cheated, and I'm pretty sure it was Remsburg. She's like, "I didn't see anything." Well, you didn't see anything there either. Why are you restarting the match?
So I'm gonna give another aspect of this too. Once they restart the match, now Bandido got hit in the head with a bat.
Exactly.
And then was immediately, it was so quickly, I have to say the word wrong, back up and winning the match.
Yep.
I think he was down for a good couple minutes, but if you got smacked in the head with a bat, you're going to need a lot more than a couple minutes.
Yeah,
storytelling point.
He should have been taken out on the same stretcher that Copeland was.
My bigger problem with that, Steve, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. But I don't hate a dusty finish when it's done right. That
was all the worst things about a dusty finish.
This falls into my same criticism of racing to the ring on the 10 count, where at 9 you're out, but sometimes somehow you have a jolt of adrenaline, you're back in the ring. Doing a dusty finish, this everybody. Everybody
nowadays.
John Cena is the biggest offender of that one.
Everyone but Steve Macklin.
Everybody but Steve Macklin.
But in this one, have this happen 5 minutes earlier. Have this happen 7 minutes earlier in the match, and then have the second half of the match. Have it be able to breathe and make it worth restarting. The fact that you just restarted to end it okay. That was there. But if you have some time to breathe in there and actually have a bit of a match, having a dusty finish isn't the worst thing in the world. Now, you guys are all right with how they got there. That's a whole different conversation. Though I trust Bandido's mom. But in this situation, you have to have just more match. Have more match.
And can I also point out, technically, where was the disqualification on Bandido? His mom put her hands on Chris Jericho. Why was that not a disqualification?
I will say this.
Where was his sister? It was one of the guys.
Where was the disqualification on a lot of things in the show? But
yeah, that's the AEW referees are the worst. They don't follow any kind of rules. They don't enforce anything. They don't do 10 counts when you're on the outside. We're lucky that they do 3 counts in the ring. at this point in time.
And unfortunately, it's to the point now where, and I get it, at the end of the day, the referees' ineffectuality, is that the word? Ineffectiveness?
Ineffectiveness, yeah.
Is
We make it work
almost,
all the time.
I mean, yeah, that's what we preneur, bro. But it's also based on how the boys and the workers treat them. So the problem is the workers don't utilize the referee the right way. And unfortunately, the referees then look ineffective, which then pulls things away from the match. Because now maybe you were having a great match. This Jericho Bandido match was a good match, but you used it wrong. You used this ref wrong. This ref looks ineffective and stupid. And the match, which should have...
It's not fair to him because he's actually a decent ref. He actually, honestly, is a good ref.
And I agree with you.
He does a good job, but he looks so bad.
And then it makes the match look bad because of it. So if this match should have been an A+ letter grade, now it looks like it's a C+ because you killed one of the parts that I'm supposed to remember the most, and that's the finish.
This happens every single time.
Suplex, I can't think of anything else that happened except for the finish into that suplex.
Exactly.
This happens every single AEW pay-per-view. We'll see two guys brawl into the crowd in a standard match for 2 minutes. Where's the 10 count?
But to be fair, that was an attitude era WWE thing for a long time too.
But in our defense, we hated it then too.
Yeah, it doesn't change it.
I will admit I liked it. I still like it. If it is a title match, I'm okay with it. Because I think if it's a title match, you should give some latitude. I actually agree with that aspect of things. But I do not like it when it's a normal one-on-one match. That annoys me.
Well, if you're going to do stuff like that, amend the rules ahead of time. No count.
Amend the rules ahead of time.
It's a no disqualification. Falls count anywhere. Give me something that allows that to fit into the rules that you construct. So we talked about this a lot, and a lot of the regular listeners know this. We follow rules in wrestling, and that's what keeps us in the story. Like in the same way that when you're watching a Marvel movie or an Avengers movie, if all of a sudden Captain America starts flying, you're gonna be like, "What the hell just happened? He can't fly. I'm completely out of this movie." It's the same thing that happens here. We have rules in place that you're supposed to follow. If you don't want those rules, ECW proved that you could have really great referees with no rules. That was just the rules that they established. There was no disqualifications in that situation. There was none of that stuff to hold them back from doing what they want. If you want that, just put it on paper and let it happen. And that's where you lose me in this, because if you have ground rules, you follow them. If you don't want them, then don't have those rules.
Can I play devil's advocate on this one, then, please?
Of course.
Yeah.
Technically, the Major League Baseball strike zone, letters to the knees, with the plate, one corner of the plate to the other corner of the plate. That is technically the strike zone. However, every umpire has their own strike zone.
Sure.
Every umpire calls stuff differently. Pitches their balls, that should be strikes. Pitcher strikes, it should be balls. Now, obviously, there are the people, a.k.a., you guys, who think, the automatic strike zone, so that way, take it out of the umpire's hands, it's set, boom, it's either in the box, it's not in the box, it's strike, it's
I don't
ball.
subscribe to that, but God.
I'm just saying in general, I apologize, I'm making a broad generalization here. But my point being, then you have the other, half of things, which is, I like that variable strike zone. I like that aspect. So I like, to an extent, the officiating, to the extent when the officiating has a little leeway, takes a little leeway of the rules. Only, like I said, if we're talking a title match. So I want that finality. If we're not talking a title match, then I get annoyed about it, because there's nothing special for why you would have a little bit of give a little leeway with that.
I think that the counterpoint to that is less having your own strike zone, because that's just kind of part of the game that they've always had. I think it's It's also the same thing with second base, where you don't have to tag second base when you're turning a double play. But we now have the pitch clock, where we now have the batter has to be prepared by the 7-second mark or what have you. If all of a sudden they were just like the pitch clock was over by 10 seconds and not calling that a ball, is the same correlation. That rule is in place. There's a clock for it. In football, you have the play clock, or in basketball, you have the shot clock.
To be fair,
the buzzer,
in football with the play clock, there are many a time where it hits 0 and they still haven't thrown the flag. So
yeah, and that's only with the Chiefs, and it's something that everyone complains about. But that's more the correlation where it's the like, you can always miss with human error. Like when we say like the referee's back's turned, they didn't see the cheating. That falls into human error in this. Okay. Letting people walk around the crowd when there's a 10 count when you're outside the ring is just part of the rules. They can get rid of the rule. The same way that WWE did every triple threat is an ODQ match, just automatically.
Does AEW do that? I don't know if that's automatic.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it is. So
I hate that because I don't think it should be.
I don't
think it should be either, personally.
So I'll give you another side of this too, because recently there was Jimmy Corderas was talking on Busted Open, and he talks about how he would have handled situations like this, the lacking of counting and stuff. He's like, look, you can have 2 minutes of fight on the outside, but it's also my job to direct the traffic. So
just stick your head into the ropes every couple seconds.
That's what he would say. He'd be like if he'd be given a count, and if something was happening, guys, hey, I need you to get back. He's visibly telling people to get back in the ring. Okay, I've warned you twice. Now I'm going to start counting. Now I'm to 6. Hey, one of you is down. Both of you are down. Whatever it is, guys, one of you needs to at least roll in the ring real quick to break the count, and then just roll back out and start fighting again.
Yep. Break the count.
That's part of the rules. I'd be okay with something like that if that was the case too. I was looking for that. Honestly, I was expecting more.
That's I think where I'm at.
Jericho did it, if I remember correctly.
Jericho does it a lot, and I'll say this. This is again, if you're playing with the rules, and as a heel, you're bending them, but you're not quite breaking them. Mm-hmm. And then when the ref isn't looking, you full on break them. That's when you hit somebody with a brick, or whatever, a chair, you bat. Do whatever. But there were points in this which, what is it? It's during the main event. Well, I'll get into it then. But like when the referee literally has to move the object that someone has been hit with to make the count, and you have to act like you don't know what happened. Well, who's the dummy here?
Though, if you don't see it, it didn't happen. Like that's
So then let me ask you this, because I know I'm backtracking a match here, but with the Briscoe match, when he was throwing the chair in to do his jump off the use the chair as a springboard, what were your thoughts when the ref was taking it and tossing multiple times, tossing it out of the ring?
So one, I already don't like that referee. I'm not a Rick Knox fan. He's a corpse. He stands there and does nothing a lot. Secondly, I think, yes, they should be tossing the chairs out. I think it's dumb that he completely turns his back to toss it out. Your job is still to watch the match. Yes. Your job is to ref, umpire, whatever. Referees in football or umpires in baseball or whatever, whether they see something or not, it's not because they turn their back on the action.
And we've seen countless times of, even when a wrestler has a chair in the air and the intent is there, the referee pulling that chair out of their hands to stop them from breaking the rules, because they're there to enforce the rules. So throwing the chairs out of the ring, I think, is right. But the minute one of those chairs is used, I think that's where you have to call the bell. But then I think it also goes...
He's technically not using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
So
that's one of those things
it's not like
where
he's
it's
never
a
done
gray
this
area.
before.
It's a gray area, and it's one of those things where he didn't hit somebody with the chair. Technically, the chair shouldn't have been in there. If, sake of argument, the referee, I mean, you could actually make the argument that he could have done a botched move because he goes to springboard off the chair, and the ref is literally grabbing the chair as he's going to jump onto it, which I think would have been an amazing screw-up spot. Like, this is why the guy lost, is because the ref went to grab the chair that's not supposed to be in the ring, which, by the way, if anyone wants to hire us for writing, we are available.
Yeah, we're
Showtime, it comes at a high cost, though.
I'm expensive.
I
will
admit I am very cheap. I'm cheap.
I'll stay in the middle.
I'm a cheap date.
I need to be able to afford life, basically.
I have high taste. You're not called Showtime without high taste.
No,
he's that goes off. Slim, the same thing that goes with the tape, like with the Spanish announce table, right? Mid-match, people are put through that all the time, but it's not considered a disqualification. I don't know why. I don't
know why either. I couldn't understand that either.
But that's kind of just the rules. It's out there. It's part of the ring area. Getting hit with the ring steps, or not getting hit with the ring steps, might get you disqualified.
But using them in a different way.
But throwing somebody into them is not where. I'll say this for the Spanish announce table, for announce tables in general, those things are already there.
But putting someone through a table, still putting somebody through the table.
It's still somebody putting through a table. I understand. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate for the gray area of this one. The wrestlers didn't set this up. They didn't grab the table. They didn't put the table in the ring. They didn't do that. Same thing. Listen, if we're going to go down this route, when is Bianca Belair getting disqualified for whipping that hair around?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. Like, or someone.
That's a foreign object. I'm sorry, an international object.
Or someone taking that and pulling her by that. They always let people pull her by that hair, but pulling anyone else's hair. Hey, you got to count.
That's a 5 count.
No one gets those counts with Bianca, but it's almost like you can whip people with it, but you can all, like, it's in NFL, like when you have really long hair, that's up to you, but it's part of the uniform, so they can pull you down with that. It's not even considered a horse collar. It's just your hair is part of the uniform. They can pull you down that way.
Yeah,
that's why that is treated. Not to say it's right, but we keep going other sports today to make comparisons.
But you can't use your hair as like a weapon, in the NFL either, though.
That's true. Although I'm
trying to figure out how to get that one in there.
What's his name from the Dolphins? What was that? Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams' the hair was a weapon, as far as I'm concerned.
Fair enough. His whole body was a weapon, man. That guy was something else. But we didn't really get. I don't know how far. Do we even start the Adam Cole conversation?
But again,
we can go through very quickly on that one. I think I can sum up for everybody.
Are we exhausted now? This is where all of us lose a little bit of wind for this match.
There's a little bit of win loss. I will say this: there was a little bit of win loss with that, but I think as the match got going and went on, and they really started to play up the Adam Cole ankle, like I said, I love that because I thought. At least it was, remember, I said, vary your matches. I was saying to Steve, vary your matches. And I think they varied a little bit, which I liked by doing that. And they played it up, the ankle. And it's also some long-term storytelling, in my opinion, too, with that. Guy with a history of these injuries. We're doing callbacks, And I like that aspect. It was a good match. I mean, was it a world beater? Was it a knock your socks off? No, but was it a solid match? Was it a good match? Was I entertained? Yes.
I think this match goes over way better. Everyone enjoys it more without that 35 minutes of Fletcher, Briscoe, Bandido, Jericho. I think that's where this was the one that was hurt the most, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm really pumped for Adam Cole winning his title, being a champion in AEW. I think it's fantastic. Like, this is someone who's worked really hard to get this moment in time. And I'm pumped for him on that one. I like the story build for this one. Like the fact that, like, again, we established new rules. No time limit. No outside interference was strictly prohibited. That's though you shouldn't need outside interference being prohibited because that's prohibited in every match. But I get why they need to do it, because it's constantly happening to these two gentlemen.
So I think they need to clarify that a little bit, because with this situation and the Continental title where they say outside interference is strictly prohibited, I think what they need to say is everyone is banned from ringside.
100%.
When you say it that way, it sounds different than...
It's different. You can have managers at ringside. That's perfectly legal.
Yeah. So if you say like Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom, like, yeah, technically they're all considered each other's managers as well. So if you say no, everyone is banned from ringside, Daddy Magic or whatever his name is, Matt Menard, is not allowed in Garcia's corner. No one is allowed in your corner, Adam Cole. There's a huge difference between that and just saying, well, you're not allowed to interfere. Well, no crap. Neither is
every
anyone
other
else.
Match on this card.
I will say this.
It was badly worded, no doubt about it. It was badly worded. I got the intent. It just, I wish that's the kind of stuff when I'm saying clean things up a little bit.
This is one of those tighten up moments. So here's my thing with the TNT title in general. I liked both these guys. I like Daniel Garcia. I like Adam Cole. I think these are exactly the two of the exact guys that I would expect to be fighting for this title. I would absolutely love for this title to be called the TV title. Just call it the TV title. I don't need it to be the TNT title. I need it to be the television title. And I will tell you my biggest issue with this, and I'm looking at it right now. 15 minutes, 35 seconds. That was the match time. I want, like in this case where they say there's no time limit, cool. But normally I want old school TV title rules. I want 15 minutes or time or TV time remaining.
I was thinking like a 20-minute time limit would have been perfect with that kind of a match.
Well, have it be on a pay-per-view, it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Have it on Collision or when they were still having Rampage, 15 minutes or TV time remaining. If you hit the TV time limit, the match ends. It's a draw. The champion keeps the title. It makes you have to work different ways to do things. And I miss that in a television title.
I'm pretty sure they do the TNT title normally like a 15-minute time limit, if I remember right. Normally.
I think it's like 30 or something like that.
That long? I thought it was like
I think it is. My only issue is also if you're going to do it as the TNT, which is essentially the TV title. I need it to be defended on every single television show. Every single one.
That's where the fact that you call it a TNT title and you call it the TBS title kind of annoys me, because you're kind of boxing yourself in to an extent in a lot of ways.
The other thing here, the point that I think is being missed here, though, is you put a no time limit draw on this match on purpose. And then you let it go 35 seconds over the normal time limit. This is the match. I know that I've said numerous times that this card went long. This should have been a 40-minute match.
This is the match that should have gone long.
By not having those, and again, this is where I say those quarterfinal matches didn't need to be there. I'm sorry, but they did not.
If you don't do Bandido, Jericho, you don't do Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe, and I'm going to go this far even. And I think this match was phenomenal, so I'm not taking anything away from this match. Showtime, you and I have talked about this. If they shaved 8-9 minutes off of the three-way match.
22:50. Or 22 and a half minutes.
The match was 31 minutes. Yep, 31 minutes, bell to bell.
I'm okay with how long that was because it was appropriate for those guys and those talents. The area where I actually would have said cut some time off was the world title.
Was the world title? I think that's the other thing.
That's the one. How long was the world title match?
Over 31
35.
31-35.
That's one where I want to see it cut down to at least 12 to 13 minutes off.
Literally, like we said, the last two matches are over an hour. Just matches, not counting, not curtain to curtain, bell to bell.
In this marathon of a show, you
I would have liked to see cut off 12, 13 minutes from the world title. Because I think the triple threat, I think, deserved that full time.
So I'll give it to you this way, son. Even if it was something where they cut 5 minutes off of the triple threat, just 5.
I could be okay with that.
And then they cut 10 minutes off of the world title match. And they cut Fletcher Briscoe and Jericho Bandido, let's say. We just cleared out almost an hour of time.
And
with
you
what I
could
just said.
add 20 minutes to this match, this Cole Garcia match, and make it worth a no time limit. Because 15 minutes, 30-minute time limits, those are normals. Like, get me in the 35, 38, 42-minute mark, because then you're like, this match needed no time limit. This match here, it's a 15-minute match. It didn't need no time limit. We had we had so many other matches that were longer. We had
we had
Bandito Jericho was longer. Fletcher Briscoe was longer.
And don't get me wrong, I understand having Bandito Jericho, even though it was Ring of Honor and on there. I understand it because you want that exposure for Ring of Honor. So I understood that. I'm okay with that. But why not have Sasha? Oh my gosh,
Mercedes Moné.
Bad Slim. Sorry, I pulled a bad mark. Had to give myself a slap on the hand. Mercedes, why not have her defend the TBS title instead? A TBS title defense.
I think that would have been cooler. I said this too before before we came on when you were when you were running up there. This show, aside from a few little glitches, the match times actually ascend the whole time. It
felt it. It did feel it there.
Ospreay Kevin Knight is almost 14 minutes. Hurt Syndicate Learning Tree is 11. That's one of the only times it drops down, because then it goes 13, 14, almost 15, 15:25, 16:15, 18:15, and then it's Cole Garcia at just over 15 minutes, and then 31 minutes and over 31 minutes.
And no time limit match.
You could find ways to chop a little bit of time off of the show that you could have been so strategic and chopped off. I think the Hurt Syndicate, 5 minutes, knock 5 minutes off that. You're right. 5 minutes off the triple threat would have been fine. I think, like I said, 12 or 13 minutes off the world title. Like, you could have done things in ways that you could have taken a few of those minutes and strategically placed it. Like, even if you do want to do Kyle Fletcher and
Mark
Briscoe. Cut that one down. Cut that one down a lot. Why not? I know it's a pay-per-view, but why not have it be where Kyle Fletcher just crushes and dominates, because maybe you do something outside before the match starts. He attacks him, and therefore, you maybe have a 5 minute, maybe a 5 minute match with a few minutes outside the ring first. Something where you could have. How long did you say that match was? The Briscoe Fletcher match.
Briscoe is over 16 minutes, 15. I think.
You could have cut down at close to 10 minutes off that match by doing something like that.
Well,
even Fletcher
if that match is only 10 minutes, I don't understand why these quarterfinal matches don't have time
so long.
I don't understand why they don't have time limits on them.
I don't know why they need to be so long in general. Even if you're going to say no time limit, it's okay to have them be shorter matches.
It still brings me back. A 15-minute match. There's no need for a no time limit.
There was no need for a no time limit. I agree with you. I think we all agree with you on this. Like, this should have been.
We're in agreement on that.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement. Honestly, I didn't even realize there was a no time limit. If I had known that, I would have been like, why?
They already went to a time limit draw. They've had outside interference. That's why these stipulations were in on
that would have been a cool thing if they did the time limit draw. You're right. That would have been awesome.
Well, they already had a match where
they had at one of their matches. Yeah. They went on
time limit draw. That's right. Yes, they did. Yeah.
But then you're building the precedent that this match is going to be a long one, and it wasn't. So
yeah.
But we probably talked about this match longer than it was. So I'll move on to the triple threat match. We have Kenny Omega, Ricochet, and Speedball Mike Bailey in a 3-way match for the AEW International Championship, soon to be unified. 31 minutes for a match that could have been 22. I don't know where I'm at. Let's say Slim. Why don't you give me your opinion here?
All right, I'll go first. I think 31 was fine. Honestly, that match was fan-fucking-tastic. It had, and I think Steve and I were talking a little earlier about the comedy aspect of things. It wasn't a joke quote unquote a joke match. But it added in some nice elements of comedy to add to the match in such a positive way. And it shows the fact that Ricochet leaps and bounds of forward with his character work, because we know his in-ring skills has always been great, but his ability to tell that story and make you invested now, and the fact that he's doing such a great job as a heel, you want to see him get that ass whooping. And when they were doing the stuff on the top of his head with the bald stuff was phenomenal. It was so funny. There were people there were multiple bald people near where I was sitting who were like, wait a minute, why are they making fun of him for being bald? Bald isn't bad. Bald is great. It was so funny.
And they're right. I agree with that completely.
Sadly, I'm starting to recede, so I'm good getting there.
I wear hats for a reason. I've always worn hats, but
but all in all, I was okay with 31 minutes. The match was fantastic. I like the fact that it really felt. No disrespect to Speedball. I think he was a nice addition to the match. But the fact of the matter is, you really weren't sure. Was Ricochet going to win? Was Kenny going to, there were some moments there where you were like, going into it, you're like, oh yeah, Kenny, it's definitely going to be Ken. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually.
I halfway thought towards the end of the match, though, I was even feeling Bailey a little bit, where I was like, Speedball might win this. That's how they're going to switch everything up. That's how they're going to confuse everything.
It would have been a great, twist. It would have really thrown everything on its head.
The only problem was everyone kind of knew that they were working towards Omega versus Okada to unify the titles.
Yeah, right, everyone. Yeah.
They've been announcing it for a while. It's been in the wrestling news that they were planning on unifying the belts.
See, I try to avoid that kind of stuff so I can have more fun with what happens.
That's because you're a better fan than most people.
and then makes one of those shows himself.
Yeah, and then makes one of those shows himself. Look at him endorsing the dirt sheets, but not reading the dirt sheets.
He keeps him with a unique voice. I really liked the end of this match. I liked how they took Bailey out of it so they can end it, getting caught up in the corner. I think it really goes a long way. Keeps him strong. The AEW does this often. They want to keep their losers strong, and I feel like no one can ever get a little tarnished. That one is one thing I appreciate at the end of this match, to be able to let him lose in style, I guess you'd say.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you guys. Did they make a mistake by having Ricochet take the pin instead of Speedball?
I don't think so. I think Ricochet currently, I use this term with Swerve a lot too. Ricochet, the way his character is right now, is Teflon. I think him taking the pin is not an issue. He's the heel. Technically, he can lose every night and still get heat. Yeah. MJF, I know we like to say on the show here that MJF losing should be a special thing, but realistically, MJF is so talented that if MJF were to lose 5 matches in a row, it would be special for the other guy, but for MJF, he would still probably be over at the end of the day.
MJF is kind of a special case in his own right. They kind of build him up as that unbeatable person. But I think Ospreay is actually a good example of it. Anytime he loses, he really does put people over. He does the job to help elevate other people. But the next day he can challenge for the world title, and you'd expect him to win that. You think
because he still Will Ospreay.
Yeah, that person dug deep and brought themselves to Ospreay's level, not the other way around.
Gotcha.
There's never a day off, and I think not that Ricochet is that, but the way his character is set up, he can have a rematch and against Omega, and I wouldn't be surprised if he won that match in that situation. Exactly, because it's a 3-way.
I would love to. I hope Double or Nothing that those two have a one-on-one match, or I guess after they unify the titles.
After we get the Intercontinental title.
Intracontinental title.
Intra. That's right.
Completely different. It's completely different.
It's totally
different.
Different.
Title came out yesterday.
Inter. Yeah. See. the end with Okada, I felt like it was how they handled it seemed a little anticlimactic while I was watching it. Slim, maybe you can attest to this from being there, but it seemed like he walked out, and as soon as he walked in the ring, like Kenny slid out of the ring and left.
No, it wasn't right away.
Okay,
He
because
did the face-to-face.
when I was watching it, it kind of seemed like I don't even want to be a part of this. Like I
No.
just rest like it, the way I watched it is, and again, I could have just have been watching it weird, but it almost seemed like I just wrestled 31 minutes. I don't need to stand in this ring any longer.
No, it kind of had that aspect of, oh, you want to ambush me right now? You ain't getting this. I'm keeping this. And then almost like as a show of his confidence. You know what? I'll say this. I don't know if either of you two have dogs, or have ever had a dog before, but sometimes when they go to the bathroom outside and they kick their feet, that's a sign of them saying to everyone else, I'm better than you. I fucking know I'm better than you. You come mess with me because I will take you to town. That's almost what I kind of got out of the way that Kenny Omega did it, was a little bit of the, he put the title up like, bitch, you ain't getting this.
Okay.
You ain't coming at me for this. I'm Kenny fucking Omega. Like, you ain't coming at me for this. That's the way I read it. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I felt it. I did like it, though, because it kind of set off a nice little thought in your mind of like, ooh, something big about to happen.
This is the start of the unification, and that's what I think it did the right thing there, and they'll get to it. This is the death throes of the Elite storyline, in my opinion. Where they still kind of still seems to be hanging around. Like he was the only one that didn't vanish at one point in time, and he's always been here. So I'm excited to see where they go. I think the two of them are going to put on an absolute fantastic match when they unify this belt. It's going to be one of those match of the night. Like they'll come and they'll do the thing.
I think they're looking to recreate the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest with you, I think if they do it at All In would be super smart.
I think they
Save
should
it for All In. That is your quote unquote WrestleMania show. Mm-hmm. That is the one where you should be doing that kind of a match.
I wouldn't be surprised, to go along with what you're saying, is I wouldn't be surprised if Kenny doesn't have a match at Double or Nothing, but Okada does, and Kenny comes out at the end of his match.
Mm-hmm. That would be a smart way of doing it.
And then we lead into
Okada kind of his version of, I'm the man, you can't get this. I'm keeping,
And then we do All In front of a huge crowd. And we can get, because I say it constantly where I'm not always the biggest Kenny Omega fan, but here's the thing is Kenny Omega, Tokyo Dome, New Japan, Kenny Omega is a different animal than what we have seen for the most part from Kenny Omega in AEW. Every Kenny Omega Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom match that I've ever seen, I'm on the edge of my seat. It's bigger than life. It's the big production. I think you need that for this match. So I think you need the all-in big baseball stadium vibe.
Is this a good comparison to describe it? Is it kind of like his version of the quote-unquote Mr. WrestleMania that Shawn Michaels was? Like he just took it to a whole nother level when it was the biggest of spotlights?
It's
exactly that's kind of what Kenny is like.
I think just
next level.
I think Kenny just in Japan in general is bigger. Like it's a bigger vibe. It's a bigger feel.
Felt that recently too when he was working out there as well.
Yeah, when he had that match with Gabe Kidd, it was so much bigger. It felt so much bigger than anything he's done with AEW, and I'm saying that with him being a former AEW World Champion.
Yeah,
and a belt collector.
I think you're right, though. I think that All In, it's going to be it's going to hit differently.
I think it's going to. I think they're going to go out there and try to have a Tokyo Dome match.
And if they do, let me ask you this: if they do pull that off, what will the haters gripe about? Oh, they just tried to be New Japan, blah 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 blah.
No, I think it'll be. I think unfortunately, and this is Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay both said this. Kenny and Will broke Dave Meltzer. They broke him.
They did.
And if Omega and Okada put on the matches that they have put on in the past at All In, he's gonna give them 32 stars.
Well, Dave, no. If they put on the match that they put on before, he's going to have a stroke. He's going to have a heart attack, or he's going to jizz so much it's going to like literally
it's going to be
his
bad.
entire wall with jizz.
Would he go supernova?
He might go supernova.
Supernova.
What?
Yeah.
He might even go Chevy Nova.
Oh, well, that's not good. It's not.
Oh, shoot.
All right.
The joke is, like if you ever heard the joke about like whenever Vince used to, whenever they used to have the female wrestlers out and all, and Vince would get that stupid ass look on his face. That'll be Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, it'll be that meme.
Yes, exactly.
All right, we got 9 matches in the books.
Oh, shit. What do we have left?
One more left. Not necessarily.
I was there, and I'm saying that, and
we don't have to, but we're going to anyway. We have Jon Moxley versus Swerve Strickland. Get that, Prince? No, dance going.
You have to do the jump thing where he does like the little hop around.
I love Nana.
I do too. I find him to be so fun.
This is for the AEW World Title, and we're going to get a great balanced match that showcases the skills of both Moxley and Swerve in this. A definitive winner, and nothing that I'm saying right now. The Moxley. This is just another Moxley match for me. We were talking about this earlier, Steve.
I wanted you to bring this up.
Yeah, so I don't hate Moxley. I'm not a hater on him. But what he doesn't do is what Ospreay does so well, is that he never meshes his own style with anybody else. It's always a Moxley match. And it kind of smothers the other guy. And you get kind of the same thing over and over again. The great thing about wrestling is you take two people with unique styles and you put it in a blender and you have 50% of ingredient A and 50% of ingredient B. The Moxley matches are 90% ingredient M and 10% whoever else happens to be there. Let them get a couple moves in and move on. And that's what kind of pulls it down for me in this one. So, Steve, what do you think? How did you feel about this matchup? Am I too far off?
No, I completely agree with you. I think I told Slim before we came on, I wanted him to hear that evaluation of the match in real time because I wanted him to hear it so that he could react to that because I thought it was the best. It was the most accurate evaluation of what is happening with Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Well, you remember too, Steve, before we came on, like before even Showtime came on, what did I say? I said that my issue with Moxley is if it's short doses, he could be champ, but it's got to be short doses because he has a shelf life.
It's just been too long. And my thing with Moxley, and this was kind of my thing with Moxley in every one of his title runs with AEW is, I don't know, maybe it's because I can't have the suspension of disbelief for him sometimes. I don't believe he's the toughest guy in the company. And I also don't believe he's the best wrestler in the company. And you should be one of those two guys to be the world champion. If you're both, that's amazing. Like, you could make the argument that Bret Hart was both of those things. Bret Hart might have been the toughest guy at points, but he was absolutely the best wrestler. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the toughest guy that they had to fight the best wrestler.
I disagree that he was the best wrestler, but that's a discussion for another day.
But you know what I'm saying is he was the best technician they had at the time.
Technician, I'll give you, but best wrestler overall, I do not agree.
You could say the same thing about Shawn Michaels, though. Shawn Michaels was a wrestler. He was a great wrestler. Austin was a brawler. He was the toughest guy in the room. You need to have... You should be...
Your point, though, definitely stands that you need to have those styles.
My issue with Moxley in general is that Moxley is not either one of those things.
Mm-mm.
And I don't believe him, and he's trying to be the toughest guy in the room. And it's hard for me to have the suspension of disbelief when I watched him get tapped out by a guy that works at Walmart.
That's the problem.
Oh, can we also establish
he can get that done if that doesn't happen in real life. You can't You can't
Yeah.
try it in real life, get tapped, and then move on. Like, you don't see CM Punk leaning heavily on his MMA experience in his matches because he wasn't very good at it. Whereas in Brock Lesnar, on the other hand, am I allowed to say his name at this point?
We are for right now, still.
When he leaned on, when he came back from that, he was a complete animal out there and was top of his game. So that made sense. You can't get tapped out. You can't get choked out and then come back and like
by a
I'm
novice guy.
Man. Yeah,
that's the other thing is at least if CM Punk even leaned into a little bit more. Okay, CM Punk lost to actual pro fighters.
Sure.
Jon Moxley got tapped out by a novice jiu-jitsu practitioner that works at Walmart.
But, who tapped him out again? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I don't know his name because he was literally just at a local jiu-jitsu tournament.
Oh, wait, when was this?
There's a video floating around on YouTube from Moxley doing a Jiu-Jitsu World League tournament or something. And in his only match, he gets tapped out by like a white belt dude that works at Walmart, basically.
I did not know that.
Like just an average Joe Schmo. It's the same as if one of the three of us tapped him out, basically.
Well, let me ask you this, because it was a classic Moxley match, except for the most important thing. What is the one thing that should happen in every Moxley match that did not happen?
Bleed. Oh, I'll say that. He did not
bleed.
There
you go. He did not bleed, and I
there was actually
understand that.
Was there? And I know there was no blood on this card, was there?
There really was, maybe once, and it was a little bit, real little bit.
Oh no! Swerve bled in the beginning of this match.
That's about it. Other than that, I don't think there really was any.
Bled, and then somehow, and I think he just stopped bleeding at one point. Like the cut wasn't that big.
Just why I think it's possible it happened the hard way, because it was such a. I think it was a pretty small.
I think it was right on the eyebrow, and he didn't, and like he eventually stopped bleeding, like it was a small cut.
Here's my issue, and I know it's a weird complaint. Of all the things we really have to complain about with Moxley in his match, the bleeding is, to me, at least it gives the appearance that he's been through a war. It gives the appearance of somebody who is, who was fighting his ass off, and it was, obviously blood needs to be used a little more for and within reason, but for him it almost adds to his mystique. And what a mistake by not having him bleed, because it almost was kind of like, eh.
And not having him bleed in Philly, too. Like, the home of ECW. The home of CCW. Like, places like CCW where he cut his teeth.
And his forehead, quite literally.
And, I don't know,
I just think that don't get me wrong, it was a solid match. It wasn't a main event pay-per-view solid match.
So... Moxley, this match is another time that I'm going to go, I'm going to attack refs a little bit on this one. So, during this match, and again, it's different. It was probably different for you watching it live because you're there, but having the commentary team bring this up or like talk about stuff. Well, they broke a ladder out and used it. And there was no disqualification. They did a bunch of stuff. They did completely atrocious things to each other in the first half of the match, and not a disqualification was never ever brought up. Now then,
it made no sense.
When Marina Shafir jumped in the ring and was threatening to hit with the briefcase, they're like, "Oh, that'll be a DQ. The match will get thrown out." How is that possible?
The fact that Nana had to jump in there and almost like do the ref's job for him really irritated me. I did see that, and I was kind of thinking to myself, why is Nana the one who's coming and going and getting in between and like, saying, put it down, don't do it. Like, shouldn't the official be there going, what the hell are you doing? Like, get the hell out of the ring.
Now, I had this conversation with Showtime before. Like, if literally months ago, Jon Moxley, with all of his bravado and how he was talking about only the toughest are going to survive here and blah, 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 blah. If he had said, from this point on, every time I defend this title, it'll be a no DQ match because I need to make sure that the toughest guys or whoever beats me deserves this. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't want to see nothing but no DQ matches. But every single one of his Jon Moxley world title matches have been no DQ matches anyway for every single title reign. So at least I buy it. Like, I get it.
That's just the
It
hardcore.
would have felt very Moxley to do something like that, if that makes sense. It would have been like, it would have been
it would have felt like Death Jitsu.
Yes. And at least then I would have the ability, because then I think it also is the benefit to the person who does eventually beat him, where it makes them look like they had to go to war to.
Well, they beat him in his own match.
Yeah,
that's like it's like all those times that Taker, who realistically lost more coffin matches than he won, but that was his match.
Exactly.
If you beat Taker in a casket match, that was a big deal, and only the people that did it were like the Yokozunas. Still
needing help to do it.
Yeah, you needed 2 or 3 other 300-pounders to hold down the casket.
Can we get to the other point of what really irked me, the refs part, and then why Adam Page comes out and does nothing but get attacked by the you have Adam Page come out, you have him line up, and you feel that tension of, oh, I really can't stand Swerve with all that we went through. But I also have a little bit of a respect for Swerve for all that we went and then nothing happens because the death that was so badly timed and it was so badly done. It would have made so much more sense for him to do his lariat and notice not a clothesline, damn it. Yeah. Not a clothesline from hell. It is a lariat, damn it.
But buckshot lariat.
To do the buckshot lariat on and where you could have been like, oh, who's he going to hit? Who's he going to? And he does it, and then they could have came out after that.
I almost thought it would have been cool, and instead of him getting attacked, or if he did get pulled out afterwards, he goes for the buckshot lariat. He is so clear. It looks like he is so clearly going after Moxley, and Moxley pulls Swerve in the way.
Or I think the opposite could have been cool too. You think he's going to hit Swerve, all the issues. He's obviously going to hit Swerve, and at the last second, he goes and hits Moxley.
It's all little things like that would have. That's the thing it's all little things like that would have done this match differently.
The crowd lost their mind. They would have gone nuts. They would have been like, "Holy shit!"
And then the other thing if that's not enough, that's sprinkling a little bit of the Return of the Young Bucks. My favorite part of the
Why? What purpose? Why the fuck? What purpose did that fucking serve?
Who went on permanent PTO the minute Moxley took over the company or whatever that storyline was. Again, just throwing storylines out the window.
I'm gonna give it till tomorrow to at least see if they make it make a little bit of sense.
But that's fair. But here we are.
I don't know if this is gonna make sense, but I'm gonna tell you where this is gonna go, and they're gonna use this as the Bucks saying that they're main eventers. Swerve and Hangman are going to feud with the Bucks.
See, here's where I would be okay with them getting involved. There's only 2 reasons that I would be okay with the Bucks getting involved. One is Swerve's not a main eventer. We were also looking to save the company. We can't let Swerve have the title. Okay. All right. I could get that. I can get behind that. Not the greatest of reasons, but I can get behind it. Or the second reason, Moxley and his Death Riders are on a killing spree. We decided that the best way to prevent them from killing us is to get on their good side.
I unfortunately don't.
Not the greatest, but I could get behind.
I could see that one, unfortunately, and I'm going to say it this way. I don't think it's going to be either one of those reasons. To quote Mr. Showtime here, I believe the Bucks' reasoning is going to be, I do what I want.
I do what I want.
If that is the case, oh, what a fucking stupid
that was the entire Elite storyline.
Yeah, I do what I want, and it might be slightly like, hey, we don't think Swerve is on our level, and unfortunately, this whole thing's just going to turn into Swerve and Hangman are going to feud with the Bucks, which might eventually lead to Swerve and Hangman winning a tag team title.
I mean, I'm not necessarily against that. Full disclosure, I thought Mox was leaving with the title. I did. I was not one of those people who thought Swerve was winning.
I was a little on the fence.
Ultimately, want to put it on. I think they ultimately want to put the title on. Finally, they want to put it on Ospreay. I think that they would have felt like they would have did a disservice to to Swerve to have such a short title run. But this goes back to what we were talking about earlier before we started recording. I think that what frustrates me, and I think it would have made so much more sense. And again, I know his neck, would have held up for a couple more months. If you had Danielson a few more months as champion and then Swerve wins it, say, at Revolution, or not Swerve, I'm sorry, Moxley wins it at Revolution, are we having the same discussion of, oh my God, another Moxley match? Oh my God, we're doing the same stuff. Like, would it hit the same if it's earlier in his title reign? And maybe then he drops it, say, in July at All In too.
Does he still try to murder him? Because then maybe we still have this conversation. But at the same time, I've tried to let this Moxley thing cook, and this is the way I'm saying it is. All I've heard is let it cook, let it simmer, let's see where they go, let's have patience. It's
6 months now,
6 months. There's point. To use hound terminology in this, they ruined the sauce. They put ingredients in the sauce that are not good. They use the wrong ingredients, and now the whole house smells terrible.
Again, like I said, I'm okay with Mox being champion. For me, it needs to be in small doses, and now you really get that expiration date.
It needed to end 3 months ago. They didn't give much direction to this, and it just keeps.
I would have been okay. I would have been okay if. Would you have been okay if Copeland had won the world title at? When did he face him for the world title? Was it Revolution?
Revolution last month. Yeah, I would have been okay. I would have been okay if Christian won the title that night.
Or that too. If
that's what I was hoping for.
But if Cope wins it or Christian won it, and obviously a transitional champion, let's be honest, they almost definitely would have been a transitional champion. Well, would you have been okay with that?
Yes. Because at least it would have been something different, and it wouldn't have been Moxley.
Anything to move on at this point in time. Or
like I said, I think my issue is
the storyline set. Like it hasn't been engaging. It hasn't had drawn people in.
There's had some aspects of the Moxley storyline which I've liked. There have been, but at the same time, they do stupid stuff like having the Young Bucks, who ran away scared of Moxley, all of a sudden come into again. I'll give them till Wednesday. I will give them Dynamite. If I don't get a satisfactory reason, I'm going to be pissed. Because it needs to be a satisfactory reason, and sadly, I think you're right, Steve. I don't think they're going to do anything that is. I don't think
it's going to be a satisfactory reason. And my thing here is, again, everything that Moxley touches currently turns to crap.
The way I assume they're going to handle it is they're never going to mention it again.
Yep. I do what I want.
I do what I want.
I hope and pray they don't do that. Oh, that'd be terrible.
Hey, just so you know, we're executive vice presidents, and we do what we want.
We do what I want. And with that, fellas, this episode, I think, is somewhere around 2.5 hours of a recap.
Sorry, I have the gift of gab.
It's still shorter than
the AEW Dynasty. Yeah. Not by much, though. Let's be honest. It's really not by much.
This was absolutely fantastic. This show was better. We get hypercritical in these things because that's kind of what we do. I don't want to make it seem like there was a lot of really strong matches here. Main event had left a little bit to want, but that's kind of the way this works right now. Everyone, thank you. Slim, thank you for joining us and being a part of the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Steven, you were here as well. The rest of it, thank you all for listening. Check us out, like and subscribe below. Share with your friends. Slim, do you have something you want to say real quick before I sign off?
To plug one more thing.
Oh, of course.
Friday nights around 7:00 or so, I do it live. VOC Nation, call VOC.com. It's the Millennial Sports Gladiators. So we actually talk sports. Not just a little bit of wrestling every now and then, but mostly baseball, football, hockey, basketball, soccer, yada yada.
That's awesome. Thank you. What a terrible host I am to not give you an opportunity to give your own plugs.
What happens when he takes 2 months off?
Yeah, a little rusty. Happens. Life getting in the way. But I've been here the whole time, Steve. What are you talking about? I rewrite history. Thank you all.
That's what he wants.
Always. I do what I want. And I'm not an EVP, so it's fantastic. Thank you all for listening. It's always a pleasure for us to be here with you. Like and subscribe. Tell a friend. If you don't have a friend, tell a stranger. Check it out. This was another amazing episode. And Steven?
As always, guys, remember, tuck your chin when you bump.